Kylie, and we have the pleasure of hearing the story of Christy Granados. And like I said to Christy earlier, she's a lot of content to her story, and we can't cover everything, and we've decided we're just going to own that fact and cover what we can cover. And I thought I'd start with just asking, where were you born and where did you grow up?
Okay. Are we on story? Yeah. Okay. So I was born in Pocatello, Idaho, at the end of 1959. I'm the end of the baby boomers. Yeah. And Pocatello is for Idaho, it's a large town. For the country, it's a small little town. There's about 40,000 people there.
Okay.
So there was about 40,000 people there when I grew up, and there's still about 40,000 people there. That's about it. So it's located in the southeast corner of Idaho, and I was born there, and then my sister was born, and then we moved to another little town in Idaho, Moscow, Idaho. That's in the northern panhandle, and my dad went to school there to become an engineer. So we moved there for 2 years, and then he got a job, and then we moved to another little town in California. It's called Los Banos, California. It's near Fresno, and my dad was an engineer on the San Joaquin Canal that brought the water into the farmland in California. And then he got very homesick, and he was kind of we would say now he had bipolar disorder, but he got very homesick for Pocatello, and so when I was 5, we up and moved back to Pocatello. So I really don't remember California or Moscow. I only remember growing up in Pocatello.
All right.
It's a wonderful town. I have to say that growing up there was a huge blessing, very, very huge blessing. It's small, and it's mostly a Mormon population. So I would say there's probably more Mormon churches in that town than all the other denominations put together. But it was, and we were not Mormon, but it was a very community-oriented town, very family-oriented because of the Mormon influence, and it just was a beautiful place. It's like where everybody wants to grow up, is Pocatello.
Do you have a movie theater?
We had 2 movie theaters
2?
at the time. Ooh, baby, yeah. We had 2. We had the Chief Theater, which was downtown, and it could only show 1 show at a time.
Yeah.
And then we had another theater. We called it the Cheap Theater. I don't really know what the name of it was, but it showed all the old movies, everything that was like 10 years and older.
Cool.
And they were cheap.
Cool.
Yeah. We had a bowling alley.
Nice.
In fact, we had 3 bowling alleys in town.
All
that
right.
was very fun for us.
All right.
So
40,000 people, and so what's that, like 15,000 families? Something like that?
No. Okay, wait a minute. Did you not hear what I said?
No.
It is a Mormon community.
Oh, a Mormon community. So how many families?
So a lot of the families I was related to because my grandfather had 9 brothers. And so, and they were all of these men were born in northern Utah, which is very close to southeast Idaho, and about half of them moved to Pocatello.
So, but what religion were you raised in?
Okay, so I was raised in the Disciples of Christ Church, the Central Christian Church, located at the corner of 8th and Center. Okay? My great-grandparents lived 2 blocks away at 10th and Center, and my Aunt Grace lived at 13th and Center. the university was at 16th and Center, and the Methodist Church was at 16th and Clark Street,
Okay.
one block over. So until I was in junior high school, I went to the Central Christian Church, and then I became really good friends with the gal who's still my bestie, Michelle.
Okay.
And she went to the Methodist Church.
Okay.
And so I was allowed to drive over to 13th and Center, which was Aunt Grace's house. My mother would park the car. She, Aunt Grace, my sister, and my grandmother would walk to 8th and Center, to the Disciples of Christ Church, and I would walk the block over and up 4 blocks to the Methodist Church and go to church there.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Mom was pretty liberal.
Grandma
Grandma.
ran things. My dad was what they call a Jack Mormon. And if you guys know what that means, it's a Mormon who doesn't go to church. So
Say it again.
a Jack Mormon, like
Jack.
a jackrabbit.
Like a jackrabbit. He's a Jack Mormon.
He's a Jack.
He's a Mormon, but he don't go to church. All right. I never heard that before.
And when I was in
That's why we come to these things, to learn, right? Yeah.
So when I was in college, well, before I was born, my mom and dad had dated, and my dad went to the Marine Corps and then came home from the Marines and was in a really horrible automobile accident and had many, many injuries. And he and Pat McMonagle were not treated at the site because they thought they would die. And so they didn't die, though. But my dad had all these injuries. When I was in college, he had terrible insomnia, and he and I would stay up late. I'd be studying, and he'd be watching the 700 Club at night on TV. And one night he stood up and stretched the shoulder that he could not move, and it popped back into place. And from that day forward, he went to church. He became a big part of the Calvary Chapel Church there in my hometown, which brings me to another point, which is very important, is my dad was an engineer by profession, but he was a musician. That was his love. And he played every Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights at the big honky-tonk place in town. He was a drummer. And so this really made a huge difference in his life, being able to really move that shoulder. And he started playing in the country western praise band at Calvary Chapel Church.
Wow. And Calvary Chapel was what kind of?
It's like a non-denominational, nationwide non-denominational church.
All right. Pretty cool. Well, we covered a lot.
Yeah, you did already. Yeah.
That's wonderful.
See, look at that.
Yeah. Do you want one of these? I know you got all your notes. Okay.
Yeah, no, it looks just like it.
All right.
Oh, one thing about, there's a question that Rick put on my little form. It said, tell us about your childhood. And I have to say that, so there's just 2 of us, my sister and I. There's no other grandkids for my grandparents, just my sister and I. And we're about a year apart. So we were pretty spoiled, I have to say. My mom's an only child, and my dad's only sister didn't have any children. So, our grandparents lived in town. So I could see both my grandparents' houses from where we lived. And my parents let us have free reign of going wherever we wanted to, on our bikes, on our cars, on our feet, whatever. It was just a very safe town. But this is very important here.
Well, tell it then. Bring
We
it.
had lots of animals growing up. We had chickens and horses and dogs and cats and goats and snakes and sheep. And we had a lot of sheep, and those were all mine. The sheep were mine. And because I didn't have any brothers, because I was the oldest, I was in charge of all these animals, from feeding them to cleaning up after them. And everyone in our neighborhood had horses and chickens and sheep and whatever. Yeah. So
So
That's
how
just
did
kind of
that
defined.
influence, how did those animals and caring for them influence how you
My
are
life?
now? How you are now?
Many
Yeah.
of you know Dale. Dale knows this, that I love being outside. I love hiking with them,
Yeah.
and I like anything that really gives me a lot of joy, besides music,
Yeah.
has to do with being outside. I love being outside, and I
Yeah.
think that's because of the amount of time that I've had to spend outside taking care of all these animals.
That's great. Do you go on the Friday hikes?
No, we used to go on Saturday hikes.
Well,
Me, Dale,
I used to go on
Mike.
Saturday hikes with Dale, but never with you. You go with yeah, you do
Yeah.
you do go with Amy Friday. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Coolio, Coolio. So
And there weren't very many kids around where I lived, where I grew up. Like up on this, you'd call it a mesa. We called it the bench. And there weren't a lot of kids there, so our best friends were two brothers that lived about 6 houses away.
yeah.
They were the same age as us. And when you leave like 10-year-olds to their own devices, they find some pretty interesting games to play that involve horse manure. And we had lots of it.
Did you want to tell us about any specific horse manure game?
Well, a horse manure is like a little ball,
Yeah.
and it doesn't really smell. They're clods. They're like dirt clods. So just you can use your imagination. Those were the things we did.
Okay.
Remember, I told you my dad had a pet snake. So life was not like normal for us. It was crazy.
No, I
Up the mesa. Oh, we lived on, yeah, that's where we lived. We went hiking up in there, riding our horses in there, everything like that, taking the sheep there. Yeah. Oh, I don't know, something from the yard. I don't know. He found it outside.
I've lost control.
But like growing up, the things we were involved with, we had Girl Scouts, big time Girl Scouts, 4-H. We learned everything from knitting and sewing and cooking to rocketry and animal husbandry and physical fitness, all that in 4-H. We
Yeah.
learned that.
That's great.
Yep.
That's great.
Youth group, big time.
Okay.
Church. Did we do what?
Did you
I
go to-
absolutely went to Idaho State University.
All right.
The Bengals.
Wow.
Absolutely.
All right.
That's where I went to college.
You guys will get your turn later.
Jeez, oh, and part of my family. Okay,
Yes?
So we were really close to the Fort Hall Indian Reservation, and part of my family married into people who were living on the reservation, and so we had a big connection to the reservation there. And so we'd go to a lot of powwows and Native American functions, that sort of thing.
What
Bannock
tribe?
Shoshone. The Bannock Shoshone tribe.
Cool.
It was fun.
Should we just open this up? To all of you? I think so. Yeah. Thank you. You're
So-
getting me back.
So when I was growing up,
For all
we
these
all
years.
had to be in a sport at our high school,
It's required.
required. So
What
I
were-
ran cross country.
Yeah. Lonely.
No, we only had one team. Okay, no, I'm smart here, Rick. We had one team because we had one coach. The boys and the girls trained and traveled together. I'm not dumb. I picked the
Right.
sport where there's boys. Sport where there's boys,
Boys.
right?
Right. Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there you go.
Nice.
Your turn, Rick.
I was going to ask. I don't know. So your family today. Talk about that a little bit, because you're always doing interesting things with grandchildren and your son-in-law's at St. John, all of that.
Yeah.
And tell us about that.
Well, okay, so
We're leaping a bit.
yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
Because this kind of involves my faith too. So, my senior year of high school, I was dating a guy that was a friend of mine since second grade. And we ended up getting married and then realizing really quickly that that was like the dumbest thing in the world to do. We did get a daughter out of the marriage, and he's still, this guy, Jason, he's still my friend, and we're good friends. And so Joe and I, my now husband, that I've been married to for 42 years, we have a blended family. So yes, I think so too. 42 years is, yeah, he's had to put up with me for a long time.
That's something.
But we have a blended family. So I have a daughter, and then I have 3 more daughters.
Yeah.
So we have 4 daughters, and between the 4 daughters, we have 6 grandchildren. So we have 3 daughters that have 1 child each, and 1 daughter that has 3 children.
Okay.
4 girls, 2 boys, and we call the boys the unicorns.
Why?
Because in our family, boys are imaginary. Yep.
So Patty and I used to go to St. John's United Methodist
yes.
Church in Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Yes, you certainly did. And so my daughter, Corinne, who is the same age as Janet McQueen's daughter, Megan, they're friends. She married, well, we were attending St. Paul's where she met and then married Matt Bridges. Now, you should never get to know your son-in-law when he's 12, because I met Matt when he was 12 and he was a turd. And I have to say, there were many a times that I wanted to put a sock in his mouth. It is. It certainly is. And Matt, I know you're probably not watching because he is the current minister at St. John's in Santa Fe. So he turned out okay.
He can tune and watch this later, though.
Yeah, he probably will. Yeah. In
Hi.
fact, he
Hi,
called me
Matt.
this week on Tuesday to tell me an accountant joke, which leads into the fact that I'm an accountant.
Yeah, you're an accountant.
He says, how can you tell an introverted accountant from an extroverted accountant?
How can you tell an introverted accountant from an extroverted accountant?
The
Christy.
introverted accountant looks at his shoes while he's talking to you, and the extroverted accountant looks at your shoes when he's talking to you. Now, I don't know about that, but that was the joke that he decided I needed on Tuesday.
I like that
So,
joke.
yeah, he's a pretty good guy.
Yeah.
I like him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
All right. That's good.
So these kids, when I married Joe, he'd never been camping. And I love camping. And so these kids of ours are big-time campers
Okay.
and also big-time travelers. And none of them live here. So we have to go where they live so that we can be with our grandchildren. Really don't care about you kids being there. It's the grandchildren. It is all about the grandchildren.
Okay.
And we love them, and we love being with them. We go to concerts. I will take my days off so that I can be with them. And I retired so that we could be with these grandchildren because they're awesome.
Gotcha.
16 to 1. And this summer, we are taking the to-be 2-year-old to the Olympics in Paris. With his parents, unfortunately, but that's okay, I guess. Whatever.
2-year-old.
2-year-old.
Well,
Yeah.
he'll remember that forever.
Yeah. He's already been, he's a world traveler, so he's already been to England. He went to King Charles's coronation and all that, so whatever.
What a life.
What a life.
What a life.
But Yeah, these grandkids are it for us. We love them more than chocolate.
Oh my, that's something.
Yeah.
Yeah, you take them to these pretty amazing concerts, right?
Oh yeah. Oh
Like-
yeah.
Like what?
Well, recently my 16-year-old granddaughter, and I went to see. We went to a rock festival in Tempe.
Yeah.
We went to see the Red Hot Chili Peppers, who were awesome. Far out, far out. The bonus
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
that we saw 311, which I didn't even know was going to be there, and Greta Van Fleet.
Greta Van
my
Fleet.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Right.
Yeah, we love Greta Van Fleet. So I didn't even know Greta Van Fleet was going to be there. And Jimmy Eat World, and I forget the others. It was awesome.
You're amazing.
Yeah.
You're
We got
amazing.
front row tickets, which were free, to the different grandchildren to see the Plain White Tees a couple of years ago. Yeah, we do a lot. We're going to see Hamilton, 2 different granddaughters. We're going to see Hamilton.
Where?
In Tempe.
That's great.
Yeah.
To see Hamilton live,
Yes.
that's wonderful.
Yep.
Um,
You wanted to know about Morningstar before it came to this building.
yeah, Jeff was an original,
Yes.
right?
Jeff, Janet,
Janet. I've known you since we joined, which is now 9 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it keeps coming up in conversation. So we don't have a lot of time, but just a couple of moments, minutes, whatever, about your view of the origin of Morningstar. Love to hear about that.
Okay, we moved here in '89, and at that point, I believe that Morningstar was just getting like this germination. And they were meeting over on Highway 70. Joe and I had purchased a piece of property up off of Coronado Road, and we were building a house. And so we were on a Sunday. We had been to several churches, and no fit for us. No
Right.
fit for us. So we were driving up Highway 70 on a Sunday to go check on the house, and there was those little sandwich boards out in front, and it had the old Morningstar symbol on it, which was also the symbol of the Methodist Church for my friend in Oregon. And so I immediately saw that. It was the same, it wasn't the cross and the flame, same symbol though, same logo. And I saw that board, and we drove past, and I told Joe, we're going to that church next Sunday. Because it meets at a nursery on Highway 70 up by that motel over there.
Budigers?
And it was Budigers.
Budigers?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we went there, and immediately, I think the congregation doubled in size because there were like 5 or 10 people there at that time, and it was Joe and I and our 4 kids. And
Wow.
so it was awesome. Steve James and his wife were lovely, and the people were lovely, and it was great. And then I think Janet or Jeff maybe could tell you a little more details. I think they were building this building, and maybe the next year we moved in here, only it wasn't this building, it was very small.
1990?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it was 90, 91, right around there. It was very small, and everybody did everything.
Yeah.
Literally, Mary Ann and Jay, they used to be the facilities managers here.
They were there then?
They were there then, and
Okay.
it was Mary Ann and Jay and me and Joe and 2 other couples, and we cleaned the church. And it took maybe 2 hours to clean the whole church because it was tiny.
Wow.
But each one of us had a weekend, and we
Okay.
did that.
Well, I didn't know that they were here then. So we pick up a little bit each time somebody tells us something that's
Yep.
really neat.
And the Jenkins, they were part of that.
Yeah.
Leroy and Debbie Martinez.
Yeah.
All those folks.
Debbie still comes to the after-school program, for which we need people, by the way.
And Leroy is
After
very
school.
big in the pantry.
He is,
So, yep,
and he's a great storyteller,
he
too.
is. And they had extended family that also went here, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, that's great. I got an inkling of it from when you spoke about your dad, but your mathematics. I said numbers and notes.
Mm-hmm.
You said it. You're a trained accountant
Yep, I'm a trained accountant,
and you're a musician.
When we moved here, I switched, and my first love was mathematics.
Yeah.
So I switched, went back to school, and became a math teacher.
Oh.
And then I was a math teacher until I got tenured at the university. And then they said, you have to go back and do a year of professional development. And so I became an accountant for the 3rd Judicial District Court. And at the end of that year, I said, I'm not going back to teaching. I don't like the bureaucracy. And so I was there for 5 or 6 years. And then I've been doing people's taxes now for 16 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
You still do that, or did you retire? You said you retired, so I don't know what that means.
Let me tell you what that means. That means on April 15th, I worked 17 hours.
Yeah, that's not really retirement.
No, it isn't.
Oh.
But it will be. But math and music go hand in hand because, music is mathematical, especially if you play the piano like I do. I'm a terrible guitar player. I'm pretty bad at the ukulele. My drumming absolutely, pardon my French, sucks. I had a set of drums and I gave them to my granddaughter, who's a really good drummer. So, but all music is mathematical, and so it just, being a math teacher and being a musician, same.
Goes together.
And so my story here, you have heard there is like a little gap of time when we were not at Morning Star. But when we came back to Morning Star in 2010, the praise band pianist quit for some reason. And these 2 ladies approached me. Their husbands were in the band. And they approached me and said, we need a piano player. And these ladies were Suzette Goodwin and Cindy Capana.
Yeah.
And their husbands are Matt Goodwin and Tom Capana. And so Tom played the bass. Chuck would know. I think he played the bass, Chuck, right?
Yeah, he played bass.
And Matt was our drummer. And I've played in the praise band over all these years, since way back then when Teague Williams was our praise band leader. Awesome person. And all the way through all these different praise iterations, right, Rick?
For sure.
Multiple praise iterations.
Indeed.
And it's been the biggest pleasure of my life to do this.
That's something.
To do this for God and to do this for myself and other people. There are days when Angela sings that I don't even know I'm playing. It's amazing. No. Music is amazing. And your last question to me was, what does that do for me here? Music connects me to people.
Yeah.
If I have I
said, how does that lift you up?
How does it lift you up? Right.
Yeah.
How does it lift me up? Many of you know Matt Goodwin. He passed a few years ago.
Yeah.
Matt was, I lost my hearing a few years back. That's why I talk so loud, probably. But I could feel the drums when Matt played them. And I can feel the drums when Gio plays them. And it just fills my heart. Because I can hear it, but I can feel it more. And especially with Matt. We could sit down and we were there. And every Sunday that I play, I know that Matt's here. I know he's here.
Yeah.
Oh, and the bells. Oh, gosh. Okay, the crazy people in the bells. Laura, Dale. Oh, my goodness. The bells. Franny back there. I just know so many people. and I'm in love with these people. And I think the feeling's mutual.
Yeah,
You
it
know?
is. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
And much of it is through music. So,
Christy didn't want to do parables. And Joe,
ugh, that man. I know why
her
Joe
husband
said
of
this.
42 years, I guess, if I got that right,
Yeah.
42,
Yeah.
said, "You're being selfish by not doing parables."
That's true.
And Joe was right, because this has been a blessing to have you and what you just said about Matt.
About Matt. And about Tom. I have to tell
And
you all
about Tom.
something.
He was here. He was here last week.
Yeah. I see them regularly. I'm so blessed by both those families.
Yeah.
So I'm so happy that they're here. They've been worshiping online for years.
Yeah.
And one thing I also want to say, because of music and because of coming to Morning Star and because of Joe, I know Steve Georgie is looking at his fingers. Joe doesn't come to church, but he hangs out with Steve Georgie.
Yeah.
And that's what we're all about here. We're all about loving on each other.
Right.
That's enough. Yes.
Okay. Sue? Sue Georgie said that Christy's the best hugger around.
Coming from another wonderful hugger.
Indeed.
Sandy did say about Joe that Joe has lots of girlfriends at Pantry. And Sandy calls him her Joe.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, and that's so cool for me. It makes, and he calls Sandy my Sandy. Not my Sandy, his Sandy.
It's very sweet.
Yeah,
We're really pretty much out of time.
yeah. Let's
It's
go.
11:05. You want to leave?
Let's go.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
We'll meet in worship in 9 minutes.